Today we're going to be talking about the latest product by Kwikset, the Kwikset Halo Touch, a biometric finger scan electronic smart lock. We're going to give this product away at the end of the video and tell you how, so stay tuned for that. I'm Robert with Acme Locksmith and you're watching Locksmith Recommended. All right, so I went ahead and I installed this lock on one of our display boards, and I want to just flag your attention to a couple things with the installation. First of all, the latch of this Kwikset Halo Touch Smart Deadbolt has to go in a certain orientation. It does say up on it, and where it says up, that's the top of the latch. So when you put that in, make sure that you've done that correctly. The cable that runs from the front of the lock keypad or from the front of the lock sensor into the back of the lock control pad has to go in under that lock. So make sure that you've done that. And then the other thing to point out here is there's this spindle here. It actually looks like a pyramid, and that pyramid needs to be flat on the bottom with the point on the top. And that's what you're looking for to make sure that that spindle is installed correctly. Now, my first negative thing that I've discovered about this lock. This is a 1 3/8 display board. And this lock is supposed to support 1 3/8 doors. However, I could not get this lock on the door without doing some modification in order to artificially widen the width of my door. The screws were simply too long to do that, and if I just put some washers behind the screws, I was actually binding the lock up. So I actually had to create some spacers in here using just miscellaneous items I had to increase the thickness of this door in order to get this lock on. So if you have a 1 3/8 inch door, I'm not going to recommend this lock. Now I'm to the point where I'm going to put the battery pack in. The first thing that Kwikset Smart Locks do when you put in the battery pack is it will go through a orientation phase to determine whether or not you've installed this lock on your door left-handed or right-handed. If you don't know what that means, I'll put a little link down below so that you can read about that. But this lock will automatically take care of that for you. When it does that, you see the bolt go in and out as it's determining which way the lock is installed. All right, now the handing process is complete and it knows how it is installed onto the door. Couple other things here. If you are interested in knowing how to reset or factory reset your Kwikset Halo Touch, it is exactly the same as the Kwikset Halo that we just did a video on. So I will put a link to that video in the description down below. If you do win this lock, you are going to need to do a factory reset on it once you put it on your door so that it can go through the automatic handing orientation and know how it's installed on your door. So that's very important. So if you do win this, be sure to check out that other video I linked to down below. This piece just goes on like so. There are 2 screws that go on there. Let me put the cover on. I just want you to see how this looks. It is a very attractive lock, so I do like that a lot. I'm going to leave this on as we're talking about it. I'm not going to bother to put the screws in, so you may see this be a little loose, and that's why. Now, one of the things to know about this lock is it has to be used by the app. You can't just program anything at the lock itself without the app, so that is a requirement. Now the app is very easy to download. They give you a QR code so that once you get the lock, you can just scan that in and install it on your phone. I already have the app installed on my phone from when I did the Kwikset Halo demonstration and review of that product, so I don't need to add the app to my phone again, but let's go in and add this lock to it. Now, one of the things you need to know is you're going to need to have Bluetooth turned on your phone in order to add this lock. I've just confirmed that Bluetooth is on my phone, and the reason for that, Bluetooth was one of the first technologies they started to put into these deadbolts. So a lot of the things that you have to do are still taking advantage of that. They've added the Wi-Fi, but they're still leveraging the Bluetooth technology that was in there so they don't have to start it from scratch. So I can go ahead and click next here. And it's telling me to press and hold the A button. So I got to pop this back off again and press and hold the A button for 3 seconds and wait for a blue LED. There it is. So I can go into my next screen and it's looking for the lock and it's found it. Wi-Fi fingerprint lock enabled right there. So I can turn that on. Got my blue light again. So it looks like everything went okay. Did your lock light up and make a sound? Absolutely it did. So it looks as if that lock is now synced up to my phone. Yep, it sure is. That green light indicated me that everything paired successfully. I'm just going to go ahead and name this lock Demo. And now I need to sync this up to my Wi-Fi. Now for a detailed review on how to install this app, just take a look at the Kwikset Halo product review we did before. I'll put a link to that down below so that you'll know how to set up the app and everything. I just didn't want to cover it again because it's exactly the same as it was in that video. Connect to my internet. And that looks like it's going well. Now I do want to note here that you must have a 2.4 gigahertz dedicated band in order for the Kwikset app to work. Now we discovered with the QRAM Touch deadbolt that we reviewed before that theirs was smart enough to read these new hybrid routers that are the hybrid modems that are actually transmitting in both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. It was able to figure that out. But Kwikset and Schlage and Yale still need that dedicated 2.4 gigahertz band, so you need to be aware of that. Now, if you have one of these new modems that does both, you could do what I do. I have a repeater installed in my house that reads and is able to connect to the hybrid modem, but then it transmits only in 2.4 gigahertz. So that's the network that I tied to here in order to get this to work. And I've had to do that with cameras and other locks that I've installed. So it's the norm. It's nothing to throw you off about buying the deadbolt, but you are going to need a 2.4 gigahertz transmitted Wi-Fi. All right, I finally got the successful message that my lock has been added. So the first thing I need to do is I need to add myself as a user, and you have options here in terms of the scheduling type. You can have access at any time. You can limit it by date within a specific date range and then it expires. You can also limit it by day and time. So you can have a time window on specific days where that code is good. And that's fantastic if you have house cleaners or dog walkers or somebody like that that is expected to be in your house only at certain times. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up. Let me turn my lock around here so that you can see the fingerprint sensor there. I'm going to set this up as a anytime code. And the first thing it's going to ask me to do is to scan a fingerprint. So let's use my thumb. And this is a lot like the one on your phone. It asks you to press and release several times so that it can kind of get a good indication of all the ridges on your finger. And now I need to scan another finger. And I'll just use my index finger. Same thing, press and hold a few times. There you go. Now that's one of the things to note here. This can take 50 users and it'll hold 100 fingerprints. Each user gets 2 fingerprint scans, and that's fantastic because if you're working out in the yard or something and you have dirt and grease or something on your fingerprint, or maybe you've cut your finger, you can always use the other one to get in and it's not going to mess up the biometric scan. You're still going to be able to get in because you have 2 fingers registered. As you can see here, it is now indicating that my door is locked, and in fact it is locked. Let's go ahead and unlock it from my phone. Now I do want to, just to show you, I'm going to take Bluetooth off now to show that I am actually going over the Wi-Fi network here. There you go, and I've got the green indicator on my lock that shows it was done. There is a little bit delay here in the app, just a few seconds, but nothing to cause any alarm. That's kind of normal. And let's lock it back up. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about how this fingerprint sensor works. I can go in and let's first scan my index finger. That little blue light you see there right in the beginning, that's reading my print. And then it came back red and it said, oh, that one's not registered. So I must not have put my finger on it really well. Let's go ahead and do a little bit better job there. There you go. Now it's in, and in fact, it did open. Now to lock this deadbolt once you're inside, all you have to do is touch the sensor. It doesn't matter what finger you use or anything. If you touch the sensor, you can lock it. So you can always lock the lock, even if you're not a registered user. That's great if you've got guests or somebody leaving your house. You just say, hey, turn around and hit that, and you'll lock it back up. Let me just use my pinky here just to show you. And it locked the door for you. So you can always lock it, even if you're not registered in the lock. Now the reason I wanted to go through those sequences here is so that I can bring up the history in the app, and you will see exactly what has happened. So the app was unlocked by Acme, that's me, locked again by me, unlocked by me. All right, let me see what happens here now when I use a finger that's not enrolled in the lock. What I would expect here is that after several attempts, this lock will lock down. But what I'm interested in knowing is, am I going to get a notification on my phone of an unsuccessful attempt? All right, there's an unsuccessful attempt to unlock the lock. Did I get a new notification on my phone? I did not. There's nothing in my history that indicates that an unsuccessful attempt was made. Now, I'd really like to see Kwikset do something about this because I want to know if an unsuccessful attempt was made to unlock my door. Now, sometimes it happens. I might not need a notification of it, but I'd certainly like to see it in my history because if somebody's coming and trying to get into my lock and it's unsuccessful, I want to know that. I want it in my history so I can see it, even if I don't get an active notification. So now let me try to open this lock several times unsuccessfully. I expect that this lock should lock itself down for a few minutes after that. Let's see if that happens, and let's see if I get a notification on my app that has happened. All right, so I just tried several times to unlock this, all unsuccessful, all without a registered finger. I did get a notification on my app here. Okay, the only notification I have on my app is that it's syncing my data. So I'm not getting any alarm or any alert that several unsuccessful attempts were made. Nothing is showing up in my history. So this to me is a little bit of a hole here. I'd like to see Kwikset fix that. Let me see if I'm in any kind of a lockdown mode. Let's try my registered fingerprint. Nope, that opens it right up. Okay, so there's no lockdown. I want to see that improved. Let's go into the settings on the app and see what we have available. You do have a auto lock and unlock feature that you can set up and turn on. I don't like that, particularly because if you leave your door open for any extended amount of time, you're taking in groceries in and out of the house or something, it will throw the lock and lock the lock. And then when somebody goes to close the door, the bolt is extracted and boom, it hits your frame and causes damage. So I like that feature. It's great for security. I find that I turn it off on the deadbolts in my house. The LED status indication you can control. You can pair this to several smartphones. That's fantastic. You can also unlock this with either Google Assistant or Alexa. I use Alexa, that's what I use, but it does go with the personal assistant, so that's a fantastic feature as well. And that's really the settings that you have. Now, the one thing I find really curious about this is, can I add a user somehow from my app? So let's go back here and let's see if I can add somebody from my app. Plus people. Bluetooth required. Okay, so I'm not able by Wi-Fi to get anybody into this lock or enrolled in this lock. And that's kind of what I expected. Because you have to have a fingerprint, a person needs to be present to do the enrolling. So that's another little feature that, you know, when you look at the secure RAM that had both a pin pad and a biometric, I like that a little better. Because I want to be able to sometimes just create accounts on the fly and enable users on the fly, and you're not able to do that here. So let's go ahead and add myself. Let me go into my settings and turn my Bluetooth on. And let's go ahead and add a user now that I'm on Bluetooth. It's asking me now to name the user. Let's call this user 2. And I'm also just going to let this be on any time. And once you hit submit, user 2 now present at the lock needs to scan their fingers as well. I will just add this here. Got to go through and do the several time bit. Do the pinky. Go ahead and do the other finger. Okay, so now I've added a second user. Now the most important thing here, let me just confirm that I can open this lock. I can, and lock it back. Now the most important thing that I want to control from my app is it's a little inconvenient. You can't add a user via Wi-Fi when you're away from the lock, but you would expect that because there's no PIN code. But the most important thing is, can I delete that user? There's an emergency. I don't want that user to be able to access my house anymore. Can I delete that over Wi-Fi from anywhere? Let's turn off my Bluetooth and see if I'm able to do that. I'm going to select that user. Here's the history of the user, the fingerprints he has registered. I'm going to delete. Yes, delete user 2. And he's gone. Okay, so they did that right. That's absolutely the most important thing. If you have an emergency or you need to get somebody out of your system right away, you could do it over Wi-Fi from anywhere, and that's very important. Let's just confirm that I'm not registered anymore. Cannot get in. Okay, so good. So they did that right. Let me see what else is in here. Anything else I want to draw your attention to? You can see here that I have 100% battery. So that is giving me an indication of the battery life in the lock. So that's good. I can monitor and track that. You'll also get a red light on the back of the lock here when your battery is low, and that's telling you to replace your batteries as well. So that's a great way to prompt you that your batteries need to be replaced so that you don't get locked out. This lock is right around MSRP of $250. You can get it for a little less on Amazon. I'll put a link down below for Amazon so that you can pick it up at a pretty good price. The style of this lock, this is a traditional style, rounded. They also have a contemporary style, which is squared off. We did an article on lock trends for finishes and styles of lock. I'll put a link to that down below too, because there's some several nice options with this lock that you might want to take a look at. This lock has a BHMA lock grade. Now that's the Builders Hardware Manufacturers Association. We've done a video on lock grading where we talked about the ANSI lock grades 1, 2, and 3. If you're interested in that, I'll put it down below. But we're seeing the new smart locks come out with this BHMA residential grading. And that is a rating of AAA, and you're rated for 3 things. You're rated for security, durability, and finish. So this does carry the highest rating that there is. I also want to draw your attention to this cylinder. It is a smart lock, and what that means is you can rekey this cylinder yourself. So if you have Kwikset locks on your house and you want this lock's override key to be the same as the existing key you already have, you can simply rekey this. We did a video on how to rekey these locks. I'll put a link to that video down below so that you could take a look and you could rekey this up to your existing house lock without any problem. This smart key cylinder is fantastic to prevent lock bumping and lock picking because it's a wafer-based cylinder. If you don't know about lock bumping, I'll put a link to that video down below because it is a very, very easy technique for people to get in your home with traditional cylinders. But this one is a smart key system, which we like a lot because it does stop bumping. Now there are other flaws with just about any lock out there. We're not going to discuss those. This is no better, no worse than any other Kwikset product out there. It has its advantages and disadvantages like any other product, but we're not going to go into any security weaknesses here. So what do you think of this product? Well, let's cover some of the benefits of this product. First of all, you know, when I buy a deadbolt that costs a couple $100, I want a nice, beefy, big deadbolt. I want those 3-inch screws. I want that heavy-duty strike. And this one has that. So they're throwing in the little things, I think, that help justify that price line. Those types of things help secure this deadbolt, help secure your door, and I like to see that in a deadbolt. The app on this deadbolt, it's easy to use, it's easy to lock and unlock the door, and most importantly, if you have an emergency, it's easy to delete a user from the app. And I also like that not only will it take 50 users, but each user can have 2 fingerprints entered into the system. That's kind of important because if you got some dirt, grime, grease, whatever on one of your hands, or you have a cut, you'll have another fingerprint that you can use to help get you into the lock and recognize your credentials. So having 2 fingerprints per user, I think, is an important feature in a biometric deadbolt. In terms of lock grading, this has a BHMA rating, which is a residential specific rating, but it did receive the highest grade in each of 3 categories: security, durability, and finish. So it is a good of a rating as you will get out of that system. And it offers you a very clear indication in the app of how much battery life you have left on your lock, where the charge is at, as well as you'll get a red light indicator when the batteries are starting to run low, so you'll know when it's time to replace them. And replacing batteries on a Kwikset Halo is a breeze. You just slide the battery pack out of the back, put in 4 new AA's, and you're all set and ready to go. Changing batteries very, very easy on this lock. But let's talk about some of the things I was not impressed with. First and foremost, if you have a 1 3/8 inch door, this lock's not going to work for you. It's going to bind up and jam on you. Now the documentation that I saw did say it supported 1 3/8, but I struggled to get it on to my display board, which is actually wider. So I would say stay away from it if you have a 1 3/8 inch door. The other thing that I don't like is because there's no keypad, issuing codes to somebody to get in isn't a simple process. You can't just do it from the app. They have to be present at the lock in order to be enrolled with their fingerprint. Now this may or may not be a deal breaker for you, but it's, you know, with a smart lock, I like to do everything from my phone. I don't like to worry about that kind of a thing. So for me, it's kind of a drawback. And that's one area where the secure RAM that we reviewed before was a little bit stronger because you could do PIN code or fingerprint and ignore the fingerprint if you just wanted to issue a PIN code. So that's something to keep in mind with this lock. I also don't like that when somebody comes and tries to open the lock with a fingerprint, if it's unsuccessful, that does not show up in your lock history on the app. I like to know when somebody comes in and tries to get into my lock but does not have a success. I might not necessarily need an alert for that, but I do want to know when it happens in my history so I could take a look at it and just see that something might be going on there. And lastly, I don't like that you can't monitor the status of the door. Now that's actually kind of common in smart deadbolts. Most of them don't let you do that, but I want to know if my door has been left open or not, because to me that's kind of an important feature. And that's an area where our favorite deadbolt, the Yale Connect by August, really shines and stands apart. But overall, if you've got Kwikset locks on your house, this is going to be an excellent choice for you. You can already key it up to your existing house key so that your override key will be the same key and you're not going to have to change anything in your house. You're still going to have one key to override this lock and get into all the rest of your door. It's a fine product. I'd like it. If you already have Kwikset, it's an excellent choice, so long as you don't mind having people at the lock in order to enroll them. All right, now what you've been waiting for. How do you win this Kwikset Halo Touch? Well, I'm just going to monitor the views on this video. And once I hit 2,500 views, I'm going to pick at random a comment down below and tell that person that they won the deadbolt. So be sure to comment down below something you like, something you don't like about this deadbolt. Can be anything. And after 2,500 views, I may reply to your comment and tell you you're a winner. Now with YouTube, that's the only way I have to get a hold of you. So after this hits 2,500 views, be sure to check back and look at your comment to see if I've replied. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. We do a lot of videos on product reviews and other security things that you might need to know. I'm Robert with Acme Locksmith. You've been watching Locksmith Recommended.